Welcome to the Alsco Uniforms It Pays to Keep Clean podcast. This season is dedicated to the theme, Growth is Our Water. Join us as we spend time with Chief Operating Officer Jim Kearn. In this podcast, we'll discuss observations from the field, celebrate big wins, and identify industry best practices. I'm your host, Dana Craig. Let's get started. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Dana.
We're back for episode 2. We survived the first one, so well done to us. We wanted to talk about your trips that you made and where you're going to go next. But we want to start out because we teased everybody the last time. I know they're waiting on the edge of their seats to hear about your story about the sock collection for the GM that you met with earlier in the year.
Okay. So we were sitting in the conference room going through the presentation, and I was sitting next to the general manager, and out of the corner of my eye, I noticed his socks. People wear some pretty interesting socks these days. And, when I'm looking at his socks, they catch my attention, and I see somebody's face on his sock. And I'm looking at him, and I'm looking at his sock.
You afraid it was you?
I was glad it wasn't me.
Okay.
But I keep looking at the face on the socks and looking at him, and I'm like, yeah, it's not his face, Then the service manager leaned forward, and I see the service manager's face, and I look down at his socks and look at him, and it's the service manager's face on the GM socks.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking about that for a minute, and the conversation keeps going, and then finally I can't stand it any longer, and I say, hey, we need an explanation here. Let's stop the meeting. We're gonna talk about something different. I want to find out about your socks. And so the story with his socks was that the office manager, production manager, service manager got together and gave the GM some dress shoes for Christmas, and they gave him socks with their pictures on them. So he has socks with the office manager's picture on it, with the service manager's picture on it, with the production manager's picture on it. So I said, well, what about the regional sales manager? And they said, well, he wasn't here yet. Otherwise, he would have been part of the group
next
as well.
Time then we'll see that for sure.
Yeah. And so then he had some pictures on his phone. He showed them, and it sounded like it was, they got quite a laugh out of it. So, I thought that was pretty interesting. Had never seen that before. These folks are clearly having fun, right?
Yeah.
And there was some laughs about it. And so it
had good camaraderie.
For sure. So it was interesting. Very interesting.
Well, and I know we may have a bonus sock story later. So
maybe I've got one more up my sleeve.
I know you do. And we are talking about laundry, so this seems appropriate.
Yeah.
And it's a lost sock story, so
that's right.
It's a good one. Also, the last time you were getting ready to go to Winner's Circle, which of course is our annual event where we, people earn the right to go, both in the sales and service organization. It's a really big deal, and I know Alsco's been doing it for several years now. We were in Cancun again this year. You don't look as tan as I thought you might come back looking, but how did Winner's Circle go?
I thought it was terrific. We had a great location. The facility was really nice. We were treated very well. Thought the service was terrific. I thought the theme of our meeting was terrific. And then we had this bonus thing that happened at the end where we had a drone show, which was spectacular. I've never seen a drone show.
So it was a whole futuristic theme, wasn't it?
Yes, very much. Yeah, and we had these drones did an outline of an Alsco delivery vehicle in the sky. That concluded our meeting. So that was pretty fantastic. I think everybody was very impressed with it. But it was a great meeting.
And I heard from a little bird that during your presentation, you talked a bit about how we have a lot of return winners. We mentioned that in the last episode, but we have a lot of new, first timers, which is great. And of course, I'm assuming they had a wonderful time and want to come back, earn the right to come back. So what was your message to them during your speech?
Well, I had a script that I was going to say, but I had decided, and I checked with Ben beforehand and said, hey, look, I'm going to do something a little bit different here. And at the start of my remarks, I had all of the first time winners stand up, and there was a lot of excitement, a lot of applause for these folks. And then I had them sit down and had the people that had been there before, the repeat winners, stand up. And so I encourage the new folks, the first time winners, to get with these folks that have been here, multiple times and find
Some
out.
of them over a decade, right?
Well,
well over 10 years.
Yeah, we have a guy from Salt Lake City who has been there, I think, 17 years.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I didn't even know we've done Winter Circle for 17
Right.
years. But yeah, so he's been to nearly every one of them. But, what I told those people that were there for the first time was, find out the Kool-Aid that these guys are drinking that have been here more than once. Find out what it takes to come back. Find out how you get to sustainable performance that is at such a high level. And so I think we started out with a lot of excitement. Clearly, these folks want to come back. It was a nice event. It's a nice opportunity to get out of the winter and get some sunshine. So it was good.
Well, I hope a lot of them take that news to heart. I like it as a broader lesson too, because it really is a way that if you see someone doing something that you admire or that you want or that you covet, it's a great way for you to ask how they're doing what they're doing. And it's typically good both for the person being asked as well as the person asking, because sometimes we don't analyze or think about our own success. Sometimes it's just kismet and it happens. And then when we have to repeat it, we're a bit under pressure to figure out what the formula was. So it's a great way to start those conversations.
I think there was a lot of interaction that took place between the winners, on the beach, in the swimming pools, having dinner, having breakfast. And so I hope some of these best practices, some of these ideas got shared. And I hope that these folks develop some friendships, some people that they can contact, that they can use in the future. So
it's a real earned privilege to go to Winner's Circle. It's a delicate balance sometimes to find how we want people to enjoy themselves, let loose, have fun, but you are still representing the company that entire time. And so hopefully people can strike that balance and earn the right to come back next year.
It is a privilege, and you represent ALSCO when you're there, and we expect you to act accordingly, right? And that's important. And if you want to come back, you need to uphold the traditions of ALSCO and represent us well.
Where are we going next year for the
Dominican Republic?
And we haven't been there before, right?
We have not been there.
That's a pretty exciting change.
Very exciting, and I'm hoping to see a lot of those first-time winners that I saw in Cancun. That I encourage them to come back next year.
Absolutely, yeah. You'll know if your word's stuck
right,
if we see them again. And I hear it's going to be the best yet, which I think is how we end every Winner's Circle.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
First week in March, so we're very excited about it.
It's always pretty fun.
Thanks for listening to the It Pays to Keep Clean podcast, brought to you by ALSCO Uniforms, the official mop crew sponsor for 6 NBA teams and the North Pole's Intramural Basketball League. ALSCO Uniforms is the worldwide leader in hygienically clean laundry services for uniforms, linen, floor mats, and restroom supplies.
All right, so we want to switch over now to your visits. So last time you had gone to 3 branches in California, and we talked a little bit about that. You just recently returned from Florida with 3 visits. So where did you go?
So we went to Orlando first, then to Sarasota, and then to Pompano.
Okay. And in those 3 places, what was the talk on the dock? What were people on about? What was the conversation that you were hearing during those visits?
It's a busy time in Florida,
Yeah.
And so these folks were interested in getting their loads out, going out complete. We talked about new business, a variety of different things occurring there.
And did you hear much about shortages? I know in California there was some talk about mats at a couple of the different places.
No, I didn't hear anything about shortages. They put through a lot of product in those branches, particularly this time of year. So these guys seem to be, getting their loads complete and getting out. They have some pretty good lost business numbers in Florida, so that's impressive with, all that they were doing there. So that was good.
So concerning the capacity constraints that you talked to some of the managers about in Florida, what are some ways that we might be able to, because I'm imagining we're not just going to back off on our growth plans because they're full, and it's great that they're full, but it sounds like we could tackle that from a lot of different directions.
For sure. I think we got to look at, a variety of different ways to make sure that we have capacity to do what we want to do in Florida. I think there's Florida's a great market.
Absolutely.
And we want to take advantage of, all of the opportunities that exist in the healthcare arena, that exist in, uniforms, food and beverage. So we've got to look at a number of different ways that we can address these capacity issues, and that may be building new plants.
Building new plants, second shifts.
All of that
Yeah.
are possibilities to take advantage of this terrific market in Florida.
Okay, great. Well, I'm glad we're not going to back off on it,
No,
because
not
with
at
growth
all.
being our water and there being
Right.
a lot of growth opportunity there,
Yeah.
we'll figure out a strategy to capture some of
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
A lot of it, I hope.
Yeah.
So in our last episode, we talked about fully staffed and fully trained in service, which is a big push for us on our growth journey. And it sounded like California was doing a pretty good job there.
Right.
Sounds like maybe there was a few struggles in some of the Florida branches. What are some ways that we're thinking about maybe resolving that?
I think our drivers play such a big role in customer retention. And as I've been on the docks and walking around, it's apparent that how physical this job
Yeah.
is, right? And so, we need to look at ways to keep our RSRs in front of our customers, right? Helping them, retain our business, solving customers' problems, and how do we give them more time with our customers? Maybe we have somebody help them load and unload their trucks.
Right.
That's one idea that was thrown out. I think it's one that we ought to consider. Maybe that's something that makes sense in certain markets, but we want our RSRs in front of our customers, solving problems, selling new business, doing all of those things.
Yeah, that's where they add the most value.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. And, we need to, maybe take off some of this physical
Yeah.
demand that's on these folks. Man, it's a tough job. It's a
Yeah, I
hard
think you
job.
said you lifted a couple bundles yourself.
Yeah,
didn't you?
yeah. I need to, these guys probably don't go to the gym afterwards. They're getting a big workout
No.
every day. So I think there's
It's
some
easy
opportunity.
to forget how physical
It
that
is.
that
Yeah,
job
very
is.
much.
Yeah. Those branches, it sounds like you've kind of been coast to coast at this point, if you will. Next time, I think you're going to drop somewhere in the middle. But what was maybe one of the big differences you saw at a high level between California and Florida?
Well, one of the big differences that I saw was in one of the branches when they talked about renewals. I mean, we had an interesting renewal strategy in California. This one was interesting in that they identified customers where they were having more challenges renewing these accounts for a variety of different reasons. And the general manager and the regional sales manager got together, and they came up a list of accounts where they were going to solicit the help from SCs in renewing these accounts.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and so they took SCs that were selling above their quota and brought them in to help renew these accounts that had some particular challenges with them, and we were seeing good success there. And so that's
So they've been doing that long enough that they feel like
it was
it's a
pretty
good
new,
strategy.
but it seemed like everybody was on board with it, and something that we feel like we're going to try in other markets, and so other parts of Florida would be interesting to try that strategy out.
And so the idea of using SCs that are above quota, is that because they maybe aren't going to be as concerned about not making new sales during that time they're helping with the renewal? Or is it more that they've obviously shown that they have good strength in closing?
Both.
Yeah.
Both. It's a combination of things. These are proven people that have demonstrated that they can sell, that they're good at it. And so, we like to bring in their expertise because we're likely competing with our competitors' salespeople, right? And so we need maybe a different skill set than what, an RSR or a DM might bring to the table. But it was very collaborative. The GM and the RSM were aligned on which accounts we were going to go after, and the SCs were supportive, so it was good. It was the first time I'd seen that.
So that's two different strategies now that we've heard, both from the West Coast and the East Coast. Both sound really interesting, and maybe even integrating both of them depending on certain scenarios.
You could do both.
Right?
Very
Yeah,
easy.
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
The next time you go out, you're going to 3 more. You're going to drop in the center somewhere. Midwest friends, where are you heading?
Chicago, Indianapolis, and St. Louis.
Okay, and why did we pick those 3?
Well, we're thinking about building a new plant in one of those locations in Indianapolis, so we wanted to take a look at that. Chicago, we're making a big investment in the wash aisle. We want to take a look at that. We're kind of going region to region, and so this is in a different region, and they logistically they work out well together. So
it'll be interesting too to see how they're doing in their growth journey, because I think there's a lot of, at least from the Alsco perspective, perhaps more broadly, but some untapped market opportunities in all of those locations.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we will see you back here in a few weeks then and talk about how your branch visits went.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for today's episode of the It Pays to Keep Clean podcast. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the world of Alsco uniforms, where we explore the growth and challenges in our industry. Tune in next time for more industry insights, growth strategies, and engaging discussions. If you've enjoyed our time together, please leave us a rating and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you want to learn more about our services, visit us at www.alsco.com. From all of us here at the It Pays to Keep Clean podcast and Alsco Uniforms, thank you for listening. Stay safe, stay clean, and we'll see you in the next episode.